Hello everybody, welcome back to a very special edition of the PinkUn.com Norwich City podcast. I'm Connor Southwell, this is Paddy Davitt. We're joined by Glen Riddersholm, Norwich City's assistant head coach. Thank you very much for giving up your time. Beautiful day in Austria. I think this is a bit of your free time, isn't it? First and foremost, this part of the world's lovely, isn't it? What's it been like to spend the week here?
Yeah, it's been great for us coming here, settling, having these small conversations, working with the players. Of course, on the pitch, but also off the pitch. It's so important for us, especially for me and Johannes. We are new. We need to understand also the person behind the player. It's not only about the football player, but also how the players are responding. And every time that we spend with them is really valuable for us.
Yeah, and I mean, the reason we want to speak to you, you've obviously had a fascinating career in the game, leading you to Norwich City at the moment. First, I guess the first place to start really is your love for football. Where did that come from as a young boy? What was it sort of about your upbringing and where you lived that really attracted you to football?
It's a good question. I don't know how long time we have. When I was a young kid in Esbjerg, actually the city where Lungi is also from, I grew up like normal kids. We played football in the schoolyard. We played football in the club, but also in the evening on the pitches around the area where I lived. And then one of my buddies was Alan Nielsen, who played for Tottenham and scored in the FA Cup final, Watford, Brøndby, FC Copenhagen. So we were like buddies until he, in the age of 17, went to Bayern Munich. But we always played, and because there's no one in my family, I don't come from a sports family, but I just had this passion for football. And then I grew up with German television as well, watching Bundesliga. And then every Saturday there was one game, 4 o'clock. At that time it was not Premier League, but it was best league of England. So just watch it, and I played myself. And then early on, in the age of 13, I started being a football coach. In a time in Denmark where no coaches was full-time actually. But I worked every day with football as a football player myself, but also as a football coach. So when I go to companies and speak about passion and leadership and values, I say I'm one of those 6% of all people coming to planet Earth that actually, when they're here and until they leave, find out what their passion is. And for me, football is my passion. We can lose 5 games, I don't hope, but I still feel energetic. I love my work. Every day I wake up, I think I'm blessed. I have the best job in the world, no matter what. And I just live my dream full and completely. And that's also what I have tried to teach my kids, that no matter what they do, they need to love what they do, because we only have one working life, and that's so important.
Glenn, just touching on that, your formative footballing influences, was there any English teams, English players that you looked at and had a soft spot for as growing up?
Yeah. I don't know if you can say which team, but since 1977 I saw this red shirt with a number 7, Kevin Keegan. So at that time I just became Liverpool fan, and since that I follow Liverpool.
Good choice.
Yeah, it's not a bad choice, is it? In terms of, and you said you were coaching from a very young age. At what point did the coaching become more serious for you, and you saw that potentially as a viable career path for you?
Yeah, I have a special journey in the main that when I was 15, I was lying on my bed in my room, and I was looking at the wall. There was like a poster of the Danish national team, Mexico, 1986. And I was, at that age, I was pretty clear. I could see, okay, I'll not make it as a full-time pro. So I need to go and be coach. So there I just set up an ambition for myself that from this day on, age of 15, I want to chase my dream, becoming a full-time coach one day. And from that day on, and until I succeeded becoming full-time coach in 2004, I just put everything to side. Even though I had a lot of education and stuff like that, I only had one goal, and I worked very hard because in my generation of coaches in Denmark, as I said, there was no full-time coaches. It was really late. So Thomas Frank was my good friend, Kasper Hjulmand, Niels Frederiksen, former coach of Brøndby, now in Poland. We worked as full-time coaches, but we didn't get any money until it started. Then in 4 of January, we started the academy in Midtjylland. And then from there, I was full-time. But all the years before, 18 years, I worked like a full-time coach without earning money. I really chased my dream.
Yeah, you mentioned Midtjylland there, and we'll obviously come back to that. But you had a period in sort of the Danish FA, didn't you? I mean, how big a period was that for you as a coach in terms of your own education?
It was a great period, because what you see today was actually what we built at that time. Morten Olsen was a coach. He wanted to make a new path for Danish football. So he wanted to play 4-3-3 possession. And then they sacked some of the coaches and wanted younger coaches in. And I was lucky enough to be one of those they pointed out. Because maybe I also had another approach. I came from an environment and a culture where we had way more focus on the individual player and the skills instead of the team. So I had in these years, I had 19 training sessions per week on the pitch, starting 6 o'clock in the morning. And I had 3 players, 4 players, 5 players, only really working. So at that time we had Simon Kjær, Winston Reid, Victor Fischer, all these guys coming, Jonas Løssel, all these guys coming, very specialized, very individual. And then we only had 1 training session per week with the team, because our ambition was to produce football players that could be sold. And then they needed skills on the international level. So from there it was formed. And that DBU, the Danish Federation, saw, they took me in, and I was building this together with my colleagues, and it was great. I worked with players like Christian Eriksen. I took him in in the age of 15 direct into the under-17 national team. Nikolaj Bøjlesen and Nikolaj Jørgensen, really famous players, Martin Braithwaite. So all these players, you being in that system, learning, of course, also all of football, Denmark, politic in football is important. So all these things gave me a lot when then Midtjylland called me back to work there again.
Glenn, that 86 Denmark team, I don't quite remember it, but being a bit of a student of the game, I mean, there was some players, in the Laudrup brothers and Preben Elkjær and Søren Løbu, I think, was in there as well. So I can see where your love for football would come watching that team. But moving it on, we've touched on Midtjylland. I think I read an interview with you in the summer where you said that's been the benchmark for growing something with passionate people. So how big a part of your coaching life has Midtjylland been?
Everything. You know, I was fortunate to be in the right city at the right moment. I came from Esbjerg, where I worked 10 years as coach. I moved to my wife that I live with today as well, 30 years. She lived there in a very small city called Ikast, only 14,000 people. There was one club called Ikast, and then there was a club called Herning, 15 kilometers away. And I started there in 1995. 4 years later, Midtjylland was grounded. 1999, I was there working as under 14 coach at that time. So I was at that journey. So I was the first full-time coach. I was under 14, 17, 19. I was individual skill coach. I was then a federation assistant coach and then head coach. So Midtjylland gave me the opportunity, and I worked very hard to get the opportunity to fulfill my dream. But also I was in a very passionate environment where we were it was us against the rest of the world, because we did things at that time that no one have ever seen. For example, creating the academy, taking kids from home, bringing them there in internat. So they stayed there, worked there, and we were in many ways first mover. And not many in this established conservative way of thinking football like that. So, but we always wanted to be the best. And that driver was a part of it. Because if you look at the potential, the cities, 14 and 50,000 people in an area, if you are at the stadium in Midtjylland and you drive 100 kilometers in every direction, you will have around 400,000 people only. So you can compare a little bit to Norwich and also about that area. But you know, if you work hard and you work in an environment with a clear pathway and a clear philosophy and style of play, you can really achieve. And and actually fight above your weight or above your financial position. And that, of course, has been a very important part. I have been a part of the culture creating it, but I've also learned a lot. So it's a mix of that.
I mean, I was going to say, just picking up on what you said there about being the first movers. I can imagine, whilst that was probably incredibly exciting for you guys, did you get much pushback from Danish football more widely? You know, when you're the new guys, it's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, to be honest, it felt like sometimes everybody hated us. Mm-hmm. But that was, you know, sometimes if a lot of the surroundings point finger at you, then you actually, inside the circle, you get stronger and stronger, because you want to convince yourself and the team that, hey, what we're doing here, to be honest, we didn't give about what other people thought about us, because we believed that the way we choose was the right one. So that driver was just there. And then if you look back now, today there is so much respect. Everybody is talking about Midtjylland as the good example. They actually started also this development you see in the youth football, together with the federation, but also Midtjylland, because they dare to do things that was never seen before. Data and innovative psychology, behavior profiles, a lot of things that was never introduced to football at that time. So now they're recognized as one of the best, but in the first 15 years, wow, it was a struggle.
Yeah, and maybe the pinnacle of that struggle was becoming a league winner in Denmark, and then you won the cup as well. Just how gratifying was that for you and all the people who were involved in that project? Because that feels like the top of the mountain.
Yeah. First of all, when you achieve that, it's big. When you then achieve it with in average 7-8 homegrown players in the lineup, then it's even bigger. Because I come from this youth and development that I really have a great passion for. And in that way, it was big, but it was big for the area club. It was not, I know, and that's also why I'm here in Norwich. It's not a I, it's a we. Even though there is a head coach or something, you will never be a good head coach if you're not surrounded with a great staff. And I learned that. So yeah, I was the guy in front, and I was happy to be there. But I was really happy to share it with everyone else there. And that was a proud and a great moment that we all have worked for so many years. And it cost a lot to achieve goals. Then we can speak family and all that, but that's a part of it. So it was great.
On a lighter note, I've seen some pictures of you in quite a fetching gold suit. What's the story around that?
Yeah. To make that story short, Klaus Steinlein, he's still in FC Midtjylland as the CEO, and back in the days we started the academy. Steinlein was academy director, so all of us actually took a journey, and a lot of the guys there now. Lars Friis is in Sparta Prague, Prim Priske is in Feyenoord. So a lot of these people is not in Midtjylland, but Klaus is there. So when every year because we were thinking bigger than everyone else. When people looked at us, they maybe saw a Fiat Punto, but we felt like a Ferrari. So every year we had this announcement, Academy Player of the Year. Steinlein there, Klaus, he bought the biggest trophy, bigger than the Champions League trophy. Bam, Player of the Year. And every time we had this one time of a year, he was in golden suit. So that was like a culture in Midtjylland. And then, in 15, it was actually some weeks before we won it, but we knew we would win. It was 4 or 5 rounds before it was clear. I got a call if I could be interested in doing these photos. And, it was like Midtjylland 1999, now we was 16 years old, like the teenagers. So a little bit of a finger to the rest of the world, big cigar, doing this, and then from there, growing old. Now we are there on the top, and then make a dot, and then really approach from there. So that's the story about it. A little bit about how Midtjylland always have been a little bit different. And that picture is also different, but it fits to the culture that is in that environment.
Culture is a good point, because obviously we know you've gone on and had experiences in other parts of Europe, not just Denmark, and you were shaped as a coach, I'm sure by good and bad experiences, we've obviously heard about, some really satisfying period at Midtjylland, but maybe the other side of that was just the Norrköping spell. I mean, I read a quote that, then you'll tell me if it's true or not, that you felt maybe that was the first period, albeit a small one, where you wasn't enjoying what you were doing, and we've heard your passion today. Was that a difficult period for you, having seen the other side of the coaching journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say already after 3 months, I had a meeting. I called in for a meeting and said, hey, I know I have 3 years more, but we can do this now, because for me it was a big mistake. But I'm also a team player, and they convinced me, they wanted me to stay. So I did 1 more year, and then it was time to leave. I like the city. I like working with the team, the club. But for me, and I really say this in a humble way, but for me, I couldn't see myself working there because I was not surrounded with the same passion and ambition. And that was difficult for me to see before I went there. And it was for me like a time travel back 20 years in time. So it was good. I had big ambitions, and it's not enough that the coach have ambitions and players. It needs to be surrounded with a system that can see where you need to go in the future. And when you look now at the club, it's fighting for relegation. Maybe it's a clear signal about that sometimes it's just not a good match. If I came in there just to save the club, I came there to build up the club. Like I'm here now to help supporting, building like a new philosophy and a new direction. It would have been great, and that was what I was committed to. But when I started there, it was not like I thought it would be. And sometimes a match is just not the right one, and that's also a part of football.
I think that sort of brings us nicely into Norwich, because people, I'm sure supporters, would have looked at your CV. We've seen that you were a Danish title winner, worked as a manager elsewhere, and probably wondered why Norwich, why as an assistant head coach. Can you sort of explain how that process happened?
I totally understand the surroundings, wondering and thinking about it. But then to understand it, you need to understand me. Because for me, status is nothing. I'm not driven about that. I'm driven about meeting in, share ambition with other people, be surrounded with good human beings that can be human beings together in a tough business. And then when we go out of the door, we are very professional, we are very ambitious. And to be honest, I thought after the Norrköping time that it was difficult for me to find it, because I'm another believer of all what you see in the modern football today. A lot of clubs hiring in coaches, then they sack them. All that money is wasting. We need to be more professional in football. We need to be better in finding a philosophy, a style of play that is not depending on who's the coach, who's the sport director, because then the money will stay. And you can also spend the money on the academy and stuff like that. And the reason why I believe in that is because I come from the culture I was in like in 16 years. But now, since I left Midtjylland, I only said yes to projects. But every project, except from my time in Sønderjyske, where we actually developed really good players, won the cup, lost the cup final, a really small club in the big picture. But I've always committed myself to projects, not the big names or status. I want to be a part of something. We are here and we want to go there. But when you look in the landscape around professional football all around the globe, everything is about money and winning and all that. And I understand that. And yeah, if you look at my resume, I want to win. I want to develop top players. And I've been privileged to be in that. But in the 6 months I had between jobs, Norrköping and Norwich, I was really reflecting, and I had a lot of meetings with a lot of people I know in the football business, asking them one question, sporting directors on certain levels. Do you actually think there is, in this time in football, actually, do these projects exist? Or am I naive? Yeah. Because I still believe in it. So then I got a call, and it sounded almost too good to be true. So I was a little bit skeptic. You need to be that, because in football, also like my last job, it sounds good, everything, and then bam, okay, it's not like you expected. Okay, I met Johannes, we spoke a lot, I spoke to agent, then I had good feeling, but also a little bit doubt. Not because of my job description, but because, you know, in football sometimes I've also been a little bit, in one or two, a little bit unlucky with ownerships. So this is also important. Then I had meeting with Ben, I had meeting with Neil. Now I was almost convinced, because you always have a small doubt. You need to have that. And then I would say, when we went in the end of May to the training ground, just when I stepped in at Colony, I got this really good feeling that I have been hunting almost since I left Midtjylland. This family environment, but also very ambitious. So just to being a part of that, that is what whole my football life have been. Something that is bigger than me, that reach out to a community, that we together can share a dream and ambition and really push it hard to maybe in the future be able to promote, but not only to promote, but really stay in the Premier League. And that's the culture, that's the daily work, that's my ambition, that's the driver that Johannes have, that I have, and that we together share with everyone else in Norwich Football Club. And now I've been there sometimes, just meeting all the people, academy. We're doing a great job, and it will take time, but we are committed, and we do a lot already now to really make this commitment, because we also come into a system that is very different from what we used to. As an example, hierarchy. We are not, from where we come from, we are very honest people. And a kid manager could in our country say to the kid manager, hey, what are you saying? You don't know anything about that. Just relax a little bit. But here it's like, oh, status. And of course, status is important, but it's not. Johannes and I, we will not be a success if our cleaning lady, if our kitchen staff, if our groundskeeper don't have a working environment that is great. So we are in it all that together, because we create it together. That's how it becomes sustainable. And that's why I'm here.
And you touched on a lot there, obviously, yourself and Johannes and that chemistry. I'm just interested, you know, how well did you know him? How well aware of his work at Nordsjælland were you? And, you know, how is it knitted together since you've obviously come to England?
Yeah, we you know, when you have the pro license, then you meet occasionally to refreshments and stuff like that. Then you speak, you look at each other from distance, because you know you're deep buried in work all the time, so you don't have the time. But then we met, shared thoughts, and for Johannes it was like, okay, can I work with that guy? Do we share the same ideas, philosophy, how to treat people, leadership, all this? And so it was actually more about Johannes than me in that way. Of course, I also needed to feel that I could get a role where, because being an assistant in different clubs can be very different and difficult, because I want to feel that I'm alive and I have something that I can really work at and really feel alive, to have some responsibility areas. And it was pretty clear that the way Johannes works and uses his staff around him is pretty similar to what I've done when I've been head coach. So from that point of view, it was actually a no-brainer. And then philosophy, style of play, it was a good match. And then of course, still, can we connect? Can we click? And until now, it's been very easy. Families have been together. I've now I share a room with him up here. So, yeah, it doesn't feel like we have been working together for like 38, 39 days. It feels actually more, and that's a good sign, I guess. So it has been really easy to work with Johannes, and I really look forward to not only work with Johannes but Norwich Football Club.
Yeah, and that alignment that you map out is so important, isn't it? both on the personal and the working, I guess. I mean, for him, he's 35. I don't think he's been a head coach for very long. You've obviously seen lots of coaches, lots of players. How talented is he as a head coach?
He's top class, just to be honest. The work he delivers is just on an unbelievable high level. He's really clear. There's no doubt in his mind about how he wants things. He will also hold on to the things. He will not be, one who will change when the storm is there and create insecurity around him. He just knows, and then sometimes, of course, you need to find a balance or take a small step back before you can take 3 forward. But that's also why I'm there. We are a team together with Narcisse and Clem and Nick and all the other guys around us. So, but the work he delivers is excellent, and I have been around. I've been watching the biggest club all over the world, and also have the opportunity to look over the shoulder of many really great coaches. And he's really talented, and he can really take big steps in the future and create an unbelievable career. I'm sure of that.
But that said, Glenn, it's obviously, and there's genuine excitement. You speak to Norwich fans, and they like what you're trying to do. But it is going to take time, isn't it? Is that the message? And to be fair, Johannes has spoken at fans forums, Ben too, that there may be those bumps in the road. It won't be maybe all plain sailing. You will go through difficult times. The Championship is a very brutal, unforgiving league. So as much as there could be some very good days ahead, it is a process, and maybe there needs to be a little bit of patience from all stakeholders.
Yeah, that's obvious. When you sometimes draw a line in the sand, and you want to go a direction, for example, connection between academy and first team, we can also see now how many young players we have introduced. You can look back in your own life when you were young. That was the first time you were there. But something is the first time, but then get the understanding, the experience. It will take time. But that's not said as an excuse. I really need to underline that. We are here to create results as well. But maybe I think we share the dream and ambitions that in the 3 years' time we have contract so far, we want to promote. If it happens year 1, it will be unbelievable. If it happens year 2, it will be really good. If it happens year 3, it will be like expected, to be honest. Then a lot of things can happen in football, but sitting right here today, then you can always fire back at me and say, hey, that interview and blah, blah, blah. But, things can change. But when I look now and what we are doing, and when I see from the top of the organization of the club and all the way through that we have one picture of where we are going, then, of course, to change like a ferry in the lake, it takes a little bit time to adjust all that. Maybe it goes faster, but been in football business for 38 years, I don't know. But I can guarantee you, every day I grab the door at the training ground. We're there to develop the players. We're there to push the culture. We're there to push the style of play. We're there to develop players. We're there to create results. Of course, that's why we're here. I'm not here just to enjoy Norwich. It's a nice city, pubs, churches, games, England, football, nice culture. No. I am here to create something big.
I think, and over the course of this conversation, it's become clear, but your CV as well suggests you like getting young players through. That's a real passion, personal passion of yours. It's also sort of a personal ambition of the club. You see what they've done in the last few years with academy graduates. Maybe it's been less of that in the last 18 months, but I mean, and it sounds like it was a key part of your upbringing as well, sort of youth development and whatnot. How important is that for a football team that hopes to be sustainable in the way that Norwich do, in the way that you've outlined in terms of looking beyond perhaps the next result? How important is that pathway being built, and what is the type of role that you will be playing to help fulfil that?
Yeah, my part together with Johannes is to use our experience in the way we see it, and then find this connection. It's not like us coming in and saying this is bad, this is right. It's a teamwork where we commit ourselves to this. But of course, young players are important because you can sell them, and then you can create a sustainable business, and then you can take steps all the time. because we don't have that financial muscles that some of the clubs in Premier League has. So we need to do it a little bit different way, because if we do as they do, we will always be a step behind them. So if we want to actually compete with those clubs, we need to be a little bit different and play on the strengths we have, but also be visionary in some way. And then at the end of the day, I also need to underline really, so it's not only about young players, because no young players can have success if they're not surrounded with established older players with experience that takes them under their arm on leadership and show them the direction of what it takes. Because that's also important to say, if we need to be sustainable and be able to compete in championship that is brutal, and we know that, then it's not only about young players, it's about the mix and creating an environment where the young players, for example, like Gabriel, can really develop in a good environment where we can build him up. So when he start in first time, he's there to start and really play, and that is good. Also because the connection, what I think and what I have felt is that the fans of Norwich, they like when they can see the connection from academy players playing at Carrow Road. And of course, that's a dream we share, but we also need to be honest, we need to push it. We need to have higher standards to develop better players in the future, because we're not the only one that works hard.
Yeah. I mean, you touched on Gabe there as an individual example. I didn't want to press you on individual names, but just generally, the absolute crucial importance now of developing young players. When you and Johannes have come in and you've had time to assess it, you look at that academy, do you see that? We know how many young players you've got out here, so maybe that is the answer, but do you feel the talent is there as a group? And obviously now you're going to push it on and try and develop it over time, but do you see a crop of very exciting young players?
I see potential. I'm always like that when you speak. Also, even though I've had developed more than 100 internationals and playing on the highest level, for me it's about hunger, because it's not enough to have a talent. It's not enough to be gifted, and that's actually the basic of our daily work and the culture. Never be satisfied, because I don't like to work with players that say where they want to go, but don't do the daily work that it requires to do that. Everybody can say what I want, but on the other side there is what am I doing to get there. And the truth is, the best players are working the hardest. So for me to answer your question would be a little bit too early, being here only for around 40 days. But we will try to make them understand how to be humble, but confident at the same time. But I don't like this hyping. I like that they produce performances on highest level. Then we can sit here and I will be happy and gladly to respond to your question, because I don't want to put any name up there and then expectations will grow. Let the performances give us the answer. If we have youth players who is good enough, or that all our young and older academy coaches, they can see, okay, the level is not okay. So when I, as under 8 or 10 or 12 coach, meet in daily, I need to produce a high standard, because what we have now is not enough. I don't say that, but that's how we need to work. That's the commitment. We need to be honest in our communication, so we have a clear picture of where we're going and what we need to feed in players from our own academy.
We speak out, I'm sure we're sort of coming towards the end now, but we've spoken a lot about your experiences in various different countries. How's the Championship going to compare? How excited are you to have that opportunity to work in a league like that? 46 games, very intense, quite unique as well.
Yeah, and when you as I is a little bit older, then when you look at the teams we're going to play against, that's actually many of those teams was in the best league at that time, 1890s. So I really look forward to that. But I also know, when the game is on, it's at the bubble and it's just about winning and winning the games. But I'm very humble, to be honest, because I think I speak on behalf of both Johannes and I. We are not coming in here and saying, hey, now we know everything and No, it's teamwork, and we need also to listen to all the experience, all our staff around us have the club, because we have never tried to play in a league with 46 games. So maybe after 20 games we had a good start, but we are not even halfway through. Yeah. So you can prepare for that, and we are very humble, and we can speak it in words, but it's only when you live through it and you get the experience that you actually, I think, understands. And that's also like how being a young player, playing there, Carrow Road first time, growing and get experience. It's the same for Johannes and I. So we are very humble. We believe in ourselves. We believe in the project, and we really look forward to get going against Oxford soon. But we are also very humble, and maybe we only need to be in the championship for 1 year. Who knows? If it's 2, then we are even better next year.
You mentioned Carrow Road there. I asked Johannes how was his first experience at the Magdeburg game the other night, and he actually told an anecdote. I think he turned to you on the bench and said, "What a feel that you got from that ground." And obviously, it was nowhere near full. I mean, what will that feel like? 27,000, the majority of those green and yellow fans roaring you on this season.
Yeah, I almost have a smile on my face because I just look forward to be there. I just look forward to meet the crowd. Until now, it's been unbelievable, nice welcoming we have had on every platform. When I walk in the city with my wife, everything. So playing first home game, and actually 2 in a row with the Carrow Cup as well. Yeah, just looking forward to it. And then just want to tell the fans that everybody can cheer for the team in the good times, but we really need them. And the younger the team are, if it's younger, the more support they really need from the crowd. So we in this together, and I hope we can really give the emotions back to the crowd and really really try to show how grateful we are for them supporting us. And then it's up to us also to deliver passion and performances back, because this together can, 1 and 1 can become 3 then. So it's like that. It's not like they need to do good or we need to be unified and then really do it together. So being there, Carrow Road first game, I really look forward to it. We're gonna hopefully produce some unbelievable nice stories for the future.
Final question from me, and then I think Paddy wants to know some of your favourite places in Norwich. But you're quite interested in that. We see a lot of coaches now speak about social media, and I don't want to be on social media. I don't want to read any of it. I don't want to have. And there's lots of obviously negatives that surround. You are on it on quite a few platforms. Why is that important to you, if it is important to you, and how do you sort of manage that? Because as you said, I'm sure there will be storms ahead, and that naturally that comes with criticism. So do you have to balance how you use it?
Until now, it has been really easy. I'm very transparent. Mm-hmm. I don't think, I'm a football coach, but I'm a normal person. I also am interested in politics, in my kids, in the world. What about the future, the coming generations? So in that way, I think it's okay to express how you think as a human being. And in Denmark, Sweden, and Belgium, it has not been a problem. If it becomes a problem, when I see some comments that hey, go to Ben Napper and find, then I never respond to it. If it gets too emotional, I just block the persons. Then we need to see if I need to lock my account. But I will just be transparent in an open, fair way. Of course, I will not give comments on, you are bad and now get going. I will not respond to that. And that was the nice way of, what I've experienced. But let's see what happens. I think it's okay. And I know a lot of coaches is very transparent, and I'm a transparent person, open person. Until people cannot handle that transparency, then they're just out of my feet.
And just on a very final point, and you touched about, you and your wife have had a little bit of downtime and managed to get around the city, and on social media you've put some very nice pictures. You're working for the Norfolk Tourist Board there, I think, Glenn. But just, I appreciate you probably haven't had a lot of downtime, but what have you made of Norwich as a city? Norfolk wider, there's some lovely beaches if you haven't been. So are you looking forward to exploring Norfolk more generally? Yeah,
really. But the problem is I don't have the time. I meet in every second morning, 4:15, and leave the training ground like 7 o'clock in the evening. So, you know, but I tried the one day of the week and take my wife out, and we were actually some weekends ago in Cromer as well.
Nice
But, you know, for me, I have been really out of my comfort zone. Just driving in the, for me, wrong side. Oh, I was so straight the first 4 days I was here. I was panicked, more panicked than standing there in front of a big crowd on the stadium. No, I'm really get used to it now, and now I think I'm pretty good at driving in the wrong side. So then now we need to explore the area of Norfolk, of course. I like to explore and be around in the area and also be present, because we actually represent something when we have this logo, and also be transparent that way. I think that's important.
Glenn, thank you so much for your time. It's been a real pleasure and a real insight. Good luck, of course, for this season. Thank you all very much for watching and for listening, and we'll see you again very soon.